George in the local police station in Kelso, just asking for a witness to the fact that I'm going to be sectioned on Friday. Yeah, that's Mental Health Act Scotland.
Okay.
Yeah, and what I'm going to be sectioned for is my capacity to release information that should lead to the conviction of major criminals in our country.
Right.
Yeah, because what I'm revealing are scandals and profiteering businesses that are actually running the business based on the sales of nuclear weapons.
Okay.
It's the Trident project is run in Glasgow, but the Trident companies are run from Eccleston Square in London, but they've now moved to Tower Bridge in London.
Okay.
And I've reported that and tried to report it through Police Scotland, and blessedly your colleagues have helped me to get information on all the director details. None of those issues for the Trident weapons are in the hands of any government official. We're run by mercenary army leaders that have been brutalised in Africa for 30 years already, and their customers are likely to be those innocent little countries that need the nukes to defend themselves. And all of that was released to the Scottish Justice Secretary Michael Matheson in way before the referendum, and all of that could have freed Scotland in the referendum, but were it for the absolutely vicious cover-up of all of that information. It's never been mentioned in any of the media. I've reported it at GALA, St Leonard's in Edinburgh. Yeah, I've been locked out of Michael Moore's office, refused to take the information, which his refusal to meet me is a huge breach of the British Constitution. Yeah, and that's why he was booted out of the cabinet as he was. He's privy to all of the official secrets that we're telling you about, because he was Secretary of State for Scotland at that time. So what happens to me now is that they try and silence me by psychiatric sectioning. I don't care how experienced you are in the police force, but I'm led to believe that, you know, the innocents sometimes get shut up that way. And what has happened, when I came, I'm a professor of neuropharmacology, which is drug science. And when I came back from New Zealand, I was a professor at Otago University there. I met my old friend and rugby playing mate, Sandy Morris, on the touchlines at Jedburgh Sevens, and we got talking about fraud in the NHS. And Sandy was decent enough to tell me that the British doctors, it's not just Scotland, that the British doctors are forced into a coercion corner, that if they do not prescribe a certain number of drugs for their patients by volume, not case by case, and logically assigning half a dozen to one and 2 or 3 to another, they have to meet their prescribing targets by volume, and if they do that, they get 40% of their salary as a reward for that, and it's a total breach of their Hippocratic oath. And so Sandy was enthusiastic, he was penitent about their need to do that, and you could see the decency shining out of him. And when he declared that he'd be delighted to have me help, because I worked on the councils of the drug safety units for New Zealand and Australasia, that's the Australasian councils for drug safety and to prevent toxicology. And Sandy said, yeah, it'd be brilliant to have your help, George, but we cannot start now. We need to wait till the next election is over. And when the next election was over, within 2 months, I got my first sectioning threat from Dr. FINGLAND, who trained as a policeman before he trained as a medic. And 8 times now he's come to my home suggesting that I am psychiatrically unstable. Yeah, and what I've got here is all of the, and I get loads of witnesses now, because every time I report things, everybody at St Andrew's House, and all the receipts from the Justice Secretaries, like this one here. Yeah, just let me show you that I'm showing you documents that have been signed by witnesses on the streets of Kelso. Yeah, and that there is the Mental Health Tribunal for Scotland Act, that means that on Friday, when I go to Gala Shields, I may never emerge back onto the streets of Scotland. Can you see how threatening that is?
Sure.
They've given me 9 days notice to get my act together. They have not accused me in writing of any illness. Yeah, there's no diagnosis. All they say to me is, we believe you're ill, George. And I made a video of the last uninvited visit to my house when I said to them, it's FINGLAND and a man called Basil Switzer, yeah, who's the consultant shrink at the BGH. All of these people, like you, work for the Scottish Government. Yeah, and the Scottish Government are the people that have confirmed receipts of those massive and potentially human extinction threats. The other cases are on financial fraud in Lothian Road, and John Lamont MSP, who's also been informed that I'm going to be sectioned, they will do nothing about it because they won't be silenced. So John Lamont is privy at a meeting in Heaton in the lead up to the referendum, and John is a better off together man, yeah, and a conservative, and he's a really decent chap, talks to me all the time in the pub, but he will not give me a meeting in his constituency office. And he knows now that he's an advisor on law to the Scottish Government, and he's now complicit in all of the financial services crimes in Lothian Road, run by the Rothschild family and the massive power brokers that are busting everybody's salaries, pensions, investment funds. Nobody gets a decent return on any of their investments now because of the scams that we've reported. And the people at the head of those for-profit companies only sell virtual products. That's coupons in virtual oil and gas scams that are stealing from all of the investors and the shareholders. John's privy to that, and he will not lift a finger to prevent the sectioning thing or even comment on it. Yeah. And Paul Wheelhouse is the Deputy Justice Secretary. That's him there. He is also a signatory to the receipts on those crimes in the financial services zone and on the Trident nuclear weapons scandal. So I feel very insecure this week. I'm a very confident man, and everything I've got on my website is backed up by data. But what makes me feel insecure is that my wife's divorce solicitor was formerly the lawyer for the Borders Council who run the NHS board. Yeah? So she was in the pay of Councillor Hutton. Councillor Hutton's wife is the head of the BGH and the Borders Health Board for a decade or so. Yeah? All of them come together in the persecution complex so that I cannot make any written accusations, I cannot publish any more work on my website, but all of what they're going to do to me is now published, and all of the complicity of John Lamont Matheson and Paul Wheelhouse in those massive crimes that I've already reported. What St Andrew's House tell me to do is to come back here and start the reporting cycle again. And when I did that, one of your little blonde colleagues, who was really genial at first, as soon as I mentioned the links between the Southern Reporter and its editor Susan Windrum to the Prince's Trust, she physically put me out of the office, and I had to hold the camera carefully by my sides in case I was convicted of assault, because that's what they do to the people that try and tell the truth about how a country's defrauded. So I just want Police Scotland to know that I'm going to GALA with my eldest son on Friday, and I may never appear on the streets of Scotland again.
Right. Whereabouts are you going on Friday? You say you're going to GALA. Whereabouts in GALA are you going?
I think it's in Channel Street. It's in the High Street, maybe. I'm not sure.
Right.
I haven't got that document here. It's all published online.
Okay.
The administration for this is all in Hamilton. It's just a post box number.
Okay.
And the other videos I've made in recent months, all of my crimes, I've tried to report them to the senior law enforcers. I've been pleading with Matheson and with the Lord Advocate. His name is Lord Wallace of Tankerness, and when you get them on the phone and you ask them how you report serious fraud, none of them know. Yeah, that's the House of Parliament in Westminster, and it's Holyrood. Yeah, and the Holyrood thing, the only thing that John Lamont will take on are the holes and the pits on our roads. And he's an advisor to the government in Scotland on law. He's got experience in the biggest law firms in the world, and he's going to let them section me as an activist and a political figure in Scotland for all of that time since 2010, all of which that time he's refused to meet me in an official governmental capacity. So I just want the world to know.
Do you want the world to know? Why have you come here to speak to someone such as myself today? What do you want me to do?
Just to, I admire local policing, and I'm trying to defend it every which way up, which is what we were talking about in the last incident when the blonde girl chucked me out. So what's happening in the police force is that a company called G4S that runs all the security system and all the private vans that you see along the high street there, G4S is run by Rifkind, that ran the Iraq war scandal in the same directorates as the Iraq inquest chair, John Anthony Chilcott. And what G4S, do you know who the boss of G4S is?
No.
It's Lord Condon, former head of the Met Police, the man that chaired Princess Diana's inquest into the killing and declared it to be an accident. Yeah, in France it was an unlawful killing, but he's the boss that failed to take G4S to the London Olympics. They got, I can't remember, it was hundreds of millions for the failure to show up, and in the end the British troops did the security job then, you remember that? Yeah, and so the whole world is run by scams like that, and the scamsters have impunity from prosecution, because when people like me come along with the director numbers and the explicit period when they served with the interlocking criminals on the board, none of policing anywhere in Britain is capable of taking on a serious fraud. And all the laundering things that happen are to avoid regulation. If you launder your money and your profits out of the country and under £1 million at a time, then you're immune from prosecution or regulation by the financial services authorities. And that's why everything in Lothian Road is a huge series of numbered Ponzi shells, and that's why all of the people's pensions and savings are being busted by the leaders of those institutions. Quite easy to follow that, isn't it?
Well,
so I just
right. Going back to what I was just saying. What do you want me to do here now, George?
you've done all I could ask of you. You've been very decent, and it is really good. Because what I'll do is I will post this online, and even if I get incarcerated in Dingleton for the rest of my life, that will be there so that these people have a conscience. Yeah, they're supposed to be law enforcers and justice seekers at the head of British government, and they are totally ignoring their commitments to the public.
Okay.
And it's ever so decent of you to give me that.
Yeah, absolutely fine. George, I hope everything goes alright on Friday, and I hope you're not off the streets of Scotland. For
well, the whole thing is a premeditated scam. I've never smacked my children. I've never been violent with my wife. My wife has taken me into the divorce proceedings, and she is the person that has initiated the psychiatric question.
Right.
Yeah, can you see how clever that is?
Okay.
And at the current state of our divorce proceedings, we're just in the position that I'm making my decisions whether I buy back the half of the house that she's entitled to. We've got £50,000 to £60,000 in the bank. I've had my energy supplies cut off by Npower to stop me making these videos. Yeah, and it's just to silence the activist, and I never thought it could happen in Scotland. Yeah, and to be betrayed by your own local doctors, yeah, in that manner, where you're working constructively with them, and then you find that you're going to be interned in an asylum and given drugs that are horribly toxic, that you would never even condone giving to genuine psychiatric patients. Is it difficult to understand what I say?
That's not difficult in the slightest, but hopefully it's not going to come to that. And
yeah, that's really kind of you.
What happens on Friday, I hope doesn't result in such a described.
So this is Wednesday the 30th. On the 2nd of October, my freedom may be a thing of the past.
I hope that's not the case.
That's really decent of you, and to the receptionist. She sees